This is a response to my self-love video. Of course, there were some black women who had a problem with that video. That's not to my surprise, considering any black man who tries to stress self-love for himself in a logical form is gravely, and I would say purposely, misunderstood, especially when it falls upon the fault of the actions and the thinking of other black women who commonly give most black men, as myself, problems. But so I'm not surprised at that. However, I don't discard anything that I said. All right, because if I discard anything that I said, I would have edited out of the video, which is something that I really never do. I don't really edit any of my dialogue out of any of my videos. You know, I give it to you as it is, you know, even if it sounds contradictory sometimes, even if it sounds hypocritical. I don't edit my videos. I put them out as they are. And the only time that I edit my videos is if I happen to be getting a phone call from someone and I have to pause. But going back, when I got me a couple of emails that were saying that, did you consider how leaving your family was going to affect your sons? Yeah, I took that into consideration, and I also took into consideration, had I stayed, how was that going to affect them? Seeing their father grotesquely overweight, being in danger of getting diabetes, heart disease, and all of the other sicknesses that I had mentioned in the previous video. But beyond the physical ailments that I had put myself in danger of accumulating, you might as well say, getting sick. The most important thing that a man could be in the presence of his sons is a good example or a bad example. And considering I was so in love with their mother that I became very vulnerable, because I was a honorable man. I wanted to have my own family because of my experience of growing up. I really didn't have a family, and so I felt like I wanted to do everything right in opposition of what I experienced in my past. So when it came to my mental health, along with my physical health deteriorating, I felt, what good am I to my sons if I'm a walking health risk to myself on every level, not only physically, but mentally? I was dealing with a whole lot of disrespect. I was dealing with a whole lot of humiliation. You know, her family was coming over, disrespecting. Her mother was coming over, causing a whole lot of problems. As a matter of fact, her mother had told me one time that if you don't have another woman somewhere else, you crazy. Because she knew what her daughter was doing. You know, the whole family knew what she was doing. You know, the guy who I eventually caught her with, who was her uncle's best friend, who I had known for 6.5 years out of the 8.5 years that we were together. He told her up front, I'm not going to leave my woman for you. She told him she didn't care. So when you're dealing with someone who doesn't care about her own family, what are you left to do? Especially when you wanted to gain a family with this person, and then after you have 2 sons with her, and you're trying to build you up, and every step build your family up, and every time you made 2 steps up, she would tear it down. I mean, it's like those uh, scenes in those shows where you would have a little boy building blocks, and every time he would build the blocks up to try to build something up, some little boy or little girl just come and just slap it down. I mean, that's pretty much what the situation was. So when you're with someone who doesn't respect you and therefore doesn't care about you and therefore doesn't love you, why are you there? I mean, even after 2 kids, you have women out here who will lay up and have babies by you just to be able to have some type of hold on you. Because I even heard her mother had even told me one time, well, we know David ain't going nowhere because she's got these 2 boys, and he knows that he's going to end up paying child support. As a matter of fact, when we broke up, the very next day, okay, I went downtown. I put myself on child support because I knew what I was dealing with, and I knew what I'm not going to put up with. I wasn't going to have a woman with that I have 2 kids by. I wasn't going to do this back and forth thing. We're working it out, and I have to trust her, and all of that. That's why not too long ago I made a video where I was telling everybody I don't deal with the trust issue. If I have to trust you, I'm not even going to deal with you. I'm either going to be with someone to where we're going to enjoy each other's company and we're going to move forward. There's not going to be any wobbles, none of that. People say, well, you're not being realistic. Well, if that's the reality of today, this is one of the reasons why I always tell people that being single is peaceful. I would rather be single and be by myself and secure in being alone than to have to deal with someone that I have to keep growing to trust over and over again because they can't stay out of everyone else's bed. And so I see our community going through a whole lot of drama, primarily because of the way that these Black women are today. And I was not going to put myself through that any further. The disrespect and sleeping around with people on a job. It was way out of control. It was way out of control. It was way out of control. And if you decide to remain with a tyrant like that, you can't blame the tyrant. You have to blame yourself. And if you want peace of mind, then it's most best to remove yourself from that environment, unless you stay in it, you keep on taking the abuse, and then one day you explode and you hurt and you kill somebody. And then what good are you? Yeah, this is my second attempt to do this video. The video before that was I tried to do it yesterday, and all of a sudden we had an internet crash out here in Las Vegas in terms of this cable company that I utilize under the name Cox Cable. They've been having a whole lot of issues out here with their cable system because they're making some transition or upgrades or whatever excuse they give us. But when it comes down, I need to get back to the subject, because when it all boils down to it, in spite if people emotionally perceive that you're being selfish or self-centered simply because you have children with this person, they're trying to imply, whether they realize it or not, is that you are supposed to maintain yourself in a abusive relationship and therefore an abusive environment of which it's not good for your mind and spirit, not only as a man but as a human being. I mean, to be in a hostile relationship that is lacking care, that is lacking respect, care, and love, it's not good for anyone, whether you're male or female, or being a child in that particular environment where there's no love involved. Now, by my having two sons coming up, that's not the environment that I had planned on raising my sons in. I not too long made a video, and it was basically talking about the younger generation not being raised. A whole lot of these kids today, the reason why they're so out of control is because they were only clothed and fed, but they wasn't raised with any type of moral standards in terms of example, or even information passed down from the parents' elders to the parents, and from the parents to them. So by me being raised, there was a certain way that I wanted to raise my sons to be. I wanted my sons to be not only intelligent men, but I wanted them to be raised to be compassionate men, understanding, and very much aware of their surroundings. However, when you're with someone who wasn't raised at all, when they had a mother who was an alcoholic and a father who was a heroin addict, the majority of his life until he passed away, the results are going to be, you're going to be bearing children with someone who is not in a position intellectually, emotionally, or psychologically, or even spiritually. They're not in a good position to where they should be trying to raise anyone. And so if it sounds like I'm saying that I was better equipped to raise my sons, yes, I was. Morally, I was. Because for those 8.5 years, I didn't have any women. I wasn't messing around. I was able to go to jobs and be approached by plenty of women. I've turned a whole lot of women down because the only person that I was in love with and the only person that I wanted physically was the mother of my two sons. To me, I thought she was beautiful. I thought she was absolutely gorgeous. It's a blessing to wake up every day and you look at your woman and you even say to yourself, like, damn, she's fine, and you adore this person until they start talking. And the reason why she was so cruel and so disrespectful is because she wasn't raised. She was just clothed in bed, But when it comes to self-love, you're responsible for that. It has to get to a point to where the abuse becomes at such an intensity to where your mind starts asking you questions. Do you love yourself? Is this going to be your life? Is this the life that you want for your sons? Because considering the hostile environment, don't think for 1 second that your sons are not intellectually, psychologically, and mentally and emotionally picking this up. And if they see that their mother doesn't respect the father, then there's a very good chance that your sons are not going to respect you either. They're not going to respect you either because they see their mother disrespecting you, and you're still trying to be the gentleman that you were raised to be. And you're, like I said before, you're in a hope mode, and you just hope that sooner or later she'll come around and things will get better. But that only implies that you're still not doing anything to resolve it, because you're a gentleman and you're a peaceful man and you don't like arguing back and forth. However, you're the person that you're with, they were raised up in chaos, and so that's all they know. And then when the option of peace is presented to them from you, they still choose chaos. I mean, even after 2 children, she chose chaos. She chose it. And so once it gets to the point to where a person starts coming home late for work, and you start finding signs of things around the house that implies that the person who you with is messing around on you. And even when it comes to the point to where that person's mother comes to you and she's shaking her head, because it even gets to the point to where that person's mother, she sees what you're not doing, and she sees what her daughter is doing in order to destroy the union. It gets to the point to where she says, you know what, if you don't have a woman somewhere else, you're crazy. Now, most people will say, yeah, I understand what she's saying. I understand what she's saying. Yeah, but she's also revealing how she raised her daughter in terms of relationships. Instead of her coming to me and telling me, David, I'm noticing how she treats you. You know, have you and her sat down and talked about it? Have you? What are you going to do about this in order to resolve your family, that things will get better? Because you guys have these two sons. However, her mother's background was full of chaos as well. Now, people may say, well, didn't you notice before you got with her? No, actually, I met her in Sierra Nevada job corps, and I didn't know how chaotic her family background was until I moved out here. And things started coming out after my firstborn, my oldest son was born. So they figured, well, he's locked in now. You know, he's not going nowhere. But like I said, when it gets to the point to where you realize that you're dying because you're overweight, you put yourself in a position to where you could at any day catch diabetes, as I said, heart's disease, which already runs through my family. And so I was always trying to stay in shape, because once I came to understand the common sicknesses in my family, like heart's disease and diabetes and high blood pressure, I had patterned my life around those things in order to not fall victim of those type of ailments. Because genetically, I came to realize that due to the fact that I'm related to those in my family who has these ailments, I felt like if I'm not careful, I could fall victim to those same ailments, because genetically, I'm built for that. And so I've always patterned my life in opposition of those things. No smoking, no drinking, no drugs, not too much stress, don't overeat, don't undereat, don't use too much salt, just things that will prevent high blood pressure, diabetes, heart's disease. I've always patterned my eating habits and my life activities in opposition to those things. And that's one of the reasons why this coming January, I'm going on 61 years old and I still don't have high blood pressure. So when it all boils down to it, you have to continue to love yourself so that you can avoid these ailments in terms of being in a very hostile relationship, which could trigger stress, and that will eventually lead you to doing things that are self-destructive, like I did. I started overeating. I let my body go. I stopped exercising because I got to the point to where I remember asking, the Creator one morning. I got up. I'm looking in the living room. She's sleeping on the couch. I knew she was messing around with people at work. She was messing around with her mother's boyfriend's 14-year-old son, and not only him, but she was messing around with her mother's boyfriend's brother. So it was crazy. I was even told that there was some incest going on in the family. But other than that, I asked the Creator one morning. I got up and I'm going into the restroom, and I go to the kitchen. She's in the living room sleeping on the couch. I said to the Creator, so is this it? Is this gonna be my life? Because I grew up in Chicago in a family that wasn't really a family. It was equivalent to just a adoption home, you might as well say. Because you just had a whole bunch of people living in the same house, but there was no love, there were no hugs, there was no expression of affection. I mean, there was just a bunch of people living in the house, and it was only a family structure physically, but not mentally, emotionally, and psychologically. There was no expression of love. I had four uncles by title, but I'm the type of human being to where if I love you, I like to express it. And I look back on my upbringing when I was around my uncles, and if it wasn't so much chaos going on in that house, I would have been hugging on my uncles pretty much every day, because I put it like this, and some of you might be able to relate to this. If you come up in an environment to where genetically you're related to a lot of people, but there's no emotional structure, there's no psychological structure or anything like that. It's just everybody wakes up in the morning and they walk past each other, and there may be some clowning going on, but there was never an expression of love, like, hi uncle, how you doing? Hey nephew, what's going on, man? Hugging and all that. There was none of that going on. So I wasn't raised up in an environment to where love was easily expressed or openly expressed. I didn't come up in that type of environment. But I've always thanked the Creator that I noticed that the environment was lacking that, and therefore that's an indication that I had it inside, that I wanted to express that, but I wasn't in the position to where I felt free enough to express that towards my uncles, towards my aunts, and so it was an environment that was silently hostile. And the reason why, and see, what a lot of people need to come to understand, to where when you use the term hostile, it doesn't imply that it's always a physical thing. A hostile environment is an environment that is lacking love and compassion. And the effects of that lacking of love and compassion is hostile. And so whatever is not being demonstrated for the younger people is a lacking of education of how things should be. And so I've always noticed that, and I've always thanked the Creator that I was given a mind to know that that is lacking, and therefore the dual component of that should not be so. So it's like, how come we're not loving on each other and everything? So it's like after my great grandmother had suddenly passed, when we were at her funeral, my Uncle Kevin, that was the first time that I've ever seen my Uncle Kevin hug my mother and their brothers and sisters. And I'm like, that was strange to me. And the reason why it was strange to me is because I've never seen that. You know, that wasn't the type of environment that they demonstrated in front of me. And so when I saw that, I was shocked, but all at the same time, it made me angry because that's what my great grandmother always wanted. However, this was being demonstrated while she was laying right there in the casket. You know, and so I felt like that was hypocritical. You know, for a long time, I felt like that was hypocritical. And it was, but why does it always have to take a death in order to bring family together? But that lasted as long as her funeral lasted, you know, because when we all met up at St. Joachim Catholic Church, where they had her funeral, it was incredible because the church was so quiet. You know, the church was so quiet. My granddad, he was angry because he felt as though the environment took his mother. And he was correct. But all at the same time, if you go step by step into the past, it was an environment that my grandfather also helped create. But not to be pointing the fingers. I'm just talking about cause and effect. Cause and effect. And so that was the first time that I saw all of my uncles in suits and everything. And while we were waiting to go into the church, we were standing on the stairs going into the church, and my uncles were like 3 stairs above me. And I looked at my uncles, and it just looks like everybody was looking off into this trance, because my great grandmother was our security because we all lived in that house. And she believed in family, and she wanted all of us there because she felt as though our parents were being too irresponsible. And so she actually saved our lives. You know, she saved us from a whole lot of turmoil, even though we were still in a home to where it was lacking love, but it wasn't chaotic in the sense to where there was always some brutal fist fights going on. No, there was a time to where we have some very intense arguments, but it was never it never turned physical. It never turned physical. So, but it was a moment for me because I was looking up at my uncles, and they were very tall, slim men, and they were all suited up. And I'm looking up at my beautiful uncles, and I'm like, wow, these are my uncles, you know. And I'm looking at them. They was tall. They was in their suits, and they were looking like gentlemen. And at that moment, it helped me understand the relationships that I should have had with them. And I didn't get that opportunity. And it just seems as though they looked very intellectual in their suits and everything. And it just helped me suddenly understand that I've been around these men all of my life. And this side of them I've never seen. And it helped me wish that I had talked to them a little bit more, or they had talked, if they would have talked to me a little bit more. However, that wasn't possible because my mother and my sister kept up so much chaos in the home that the family was pretty much divided. It was the Bray boys against the Kellys, and my mother was a Kelly, and me and my sister were Bray boys because of my father's side. But there was always a wedge in between the family, and my mother had a real bad relationship with my grandfather, and so there's a whole lot going on. So when you're living in an environment that is silently hostile because there's nothing physical going on, but there's no love, there's no compassion, there's no show of affection or anything like that. And I bring all of that up because when I had an idea that this was the woman who I want to be with for the rest of my life, and this is the woman I didn't want any children by any women but her. And that's one of the reasons why I only have 2 sons by this same woman, because she's the only woman I ever want to have children with. And also, I didn't want to have children by a whole lot of different women because I wanted both of my sons to know that I am their father. And I didn't want to parade any other children before them if I'm not with their mother. I didn't want to have any more children because I didn't want my 2 sons to feel as me and my sister was made to feel by our father, that that we're being neglected or borderline forgotten. And so I didn't want my sons feeling like that. And so once I realized that I wasn't cared for, I wasn't respected, I wasn't loved, and when all of this disrespectful treatment was going on in an environment that I didn't create, and once it gets to the point to where a person will look you in your eyes, in spite of how your relationship is with your mother, she looks you in your eyes and tell you your mother is a bitch, and she's a bitch because I say she's a bitch. Now, once it gets to the point to where the person who you're with, who already lack respect for you, will look you in the eye and tell you that your mother's a bitch, you can forget about hope, bro. It's not gonna get any better. It's done. It's pretty much done. She's sleeping around. She's disrespecting you, and she's disrespecting you in front of your mother. She's disrespecting you in front of your children. When is love for self going to kick in? So when you come up with a background that I came up in, and you say you wanted to do things better, and when that fails, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay in that same hostile environment after you have been shown numerous times that no matter how much you hope, things are not going to get better? This is not going to get better. You're looking at yourself. You're 270 pounds. You're only 5'9". You've never smoked. You never drink. You never did drugs. You never abused your body. The closest that you come to abusing your organism is when you put yourself in martial arts and boxing, primarily boxing. So the environment that you set out to create in opposition of the environment that you come up in, that fails because the environment that the person who you're with is just as chaotic. She comes from a background that is just as chaotic as your background. And so I remember numerous times we would sit up and talk, and I would tell her, look, I want to have a family with you. This was before we had our sons. I said, I want to have a family with you. We both come from hostile environments. I want to do it right, but I want to do it right with somebody who I really love and adore. There was not one time that I looked at her and I didn't want her. I mean, I was almost obsessed with her. I've never put so much into a woman, even when I was sleeping with her. I couldn't get enough of her. She was so beautiful to me, and there's always that one in your life to where you sexually, you can never get enough. You can never get enough. And it's not because of the high lust, it's because of the deep love that you have for this person. You want them so bad, that, and then you grow to love them so much, you start loving them in equivalent to how you should love God. So that's a whole nother level right there. And you shouldn't love anyone more than you love God. See, because there's a certain depth of love that only should be expressed to the Creator. Now, a lot of people say, well, that means you were in love with her. You fell in love with her. Right, I fell, for real. Because you're not supposed to love any human being that much that you compromise your own self-respect and you compromise your relationship with the Creator. Because you make that person in its God form, and you're willing to put up to do, you're willing to put up with, you're willing to do anything in order to maintain this person. So, but when it gets to the point to where you love a person that much, it's going to fail anyway, because you stop loving yourself. And so once you start not loving yourself, it means you don't respect yourself anymore. You don't care about yourself, and therefore you can't say to people that I love me if you continue to live in an environment that is hostile. And you can't say that you love your sons and you expect your sons to respect you if you remain in a hostile environment in which their example is going to end up perceiving their father as a weak human being. He's always being talked to crazy by our mother. He doesn't do anything. It gets to the point to where you come to realize that when your sons observe you, they're not going to respect you, because they're going to get past saying, well, dad is a nice man. Dad is a very reserved man. However, I wouldn't be putting up with the things that dad put up with because of the way that the mother is. So I didn't want my sons looking at me as a man who didn't love and honor himself. And once it gets to the point to where you see that in yourself, then that's when your mind tells you, look, if you see this in you, you can imagine how your sons are going to end up seeing you as a man and even as a human being. So what are you going to do about it? Because how are you going to show them how a man should be as an example in terms of you being their father? In a hostile environment like this, they see their mother go out, with these different men. Because my sons, primarily my oldest one, he remembers a whole lot. He remembers a whole lot. And that's why me and my oldest son have a more closer relationship than I have with my youngest one, because my youngest one is 3 years younger than my oldest one, and therefore he was just a baby when all of this was going on. And so whenever the youngest one is more able to be mentally manipulated because he was a baby. And so as he comes up and he's in an environment where the mother is always talking down the father and lying on the father's character, just outright lying, your youngest one who wasn't conscious enough to know and see actually what was going on, like his oldest brother, he's gonna grow up and his attitude towards you is gonna reflect all of the negative things that his mother says about you. And no matter what you tell him, he's not gonna hear it. He has to, at some point in his life, come to understand that dad left us because he loved us. And see, I have to make a correction. See, I never left my sons. I left their mother. But she teaches my youngest son that I left them. I didn't leave them. I removed myself from the environment so that they would not grow up not knowing. I'll put it like this. If I stayed there suffering through all of that, which is the way that her mother and her family come up, then my sons would not have respected me as a man. And so, due to the fact that you respect yourself, you have to remove yourself from a hostile environment like that. Now, people may say, well, that's selfish. Sometimes you have to be selfish. A lot of times you have to be self-centered in order for you to know what you need to do next. So if the best example, the best persuasion will always be example. And there's no greater love for self than to remove yourself from those who you love most in order for you to grow to love yourself again. And so after during those 3.5 years that I was talking about, to where I had to be no longer in the presence of my sons, I got back in the boxing gym. I sparred a whole lot. I walked a whole lot. I used to take a whole lot of walks, long walks, because that helped me a whole lot. But once I got in the gym and I started boxing on a normal basis, I met Mike Tyson. I became very good friends with him, and through him, I met a whole lot of other celebrities, and that boosted up my confidence in myself. And it was a healing time of pain and beauty and reformation, and it was a beautiful time. But I don't want to go into that. But the whole thing is, if you don't love yourself, no one else is gonna love you. If you find yourself in a relationship to where the woman or the man, I'm talking to you women too, don't respect you, they can't say that they care about you if they don't respect you. And they can't say that they love you if they don't care about you. Because to respect you, they have to care about how you feel and what affects you. And if they care about how things affect you, then they should automatically know how to treat you. And through their treatment of you, you will perceive first that they love you. See, when someone says, I love you, that doesn't mean anything. Those are just words. See, loving someone is based upon how they treat you. And if a man or a woman who is inside of a relationship, if that's like me. There's this woman that I see sometimes. Her name is Queenie. I knew that Queenie loved me before Queenie said it, because by the way that she treats me, And so when she came up to me, and her and I met up with her at her job because I was off that day, and we sat and we ate together. And as I was leaving, I was walking down the hall because we were upstairs in the break room. And so as I took the elevator down, I'm walking down the hallway. And all of a sudden, I hear her, David, she's down the hall. And she just walked up, she was walking down the hall towards me. I said, I'm looking at her, I said, you okay? She didn't say anything. She just came up to me and she grabbed me by my hands. And she just looked at me. She said, I love you, right? I'm like, I know. She said, I'm like, yeah, I can tell the way you treat me. I said, do you know that I love you? She said, yeah, I know. She said, I just wanted you to say it. She said, because when you say it, I know you mean it because of the way you make me feel. See, women know that they're loved by the way that you treat them. So I would suggest any brother, if you don't love these women, don't say it. Because I'm going to tell you, these women know. Now, a woman who knows was raised properly. A woman who wasn't raised, she'll fall for that. Oh, I love you, I love you. Oh, that's sweet. You love me. Girl, he loved me? No, he don't. How you going to recognize when someone loves you by the way that they treat you if you come from an environment that is lacking love? You're lacking love. I had to find out what love was by way of my observation of my environment because it was lacking love. So in my mind, I said to myself, this is not the way it's going to be with me and my family. I'm going to do things different. I'm going to do things different. And so because of that, I had an idea of what love was, and I felt that it was connected to my instinctive love, which is your potential and ability to love. This is the reason why we end up saying things like, I'm going to do it differently, because we feel as though we have the truth on how to express love and how to build love and how to build a loving family. So when it all boils down to it, as I said before, if you don't love yourself, you have to love yourself. And self-love is self-preservation, self-respect, all of those things. But with all of that being said, I'm gonna shut this down because I need to get a couple of hours more sleep before I go into work tonight. And so I might do another video on this if I'm inspired. But yeah, okay. I'm gonna end this right here. And everyone stay human and love yourself. Love yourself. Everything starts with you. Everything starts with you. Love starts with you.